Hi, welcome back to Heretic Sisters. We are entering our podcast number 11, and I am Suzanne.
Sorry. We are entering our podcast. Don't worry, people.
Suzanne, I'm the hopeful heretic. I'm interested in exploring all of the frequencies with the hope of revealing something higher than our limited minds can grasp. Questions I'm always pondering: what is the truth? Can we have both an individual truth and a shared truth? Is it possible to be an individual within a group? What is our individual versus shared responsibilities? Is shared and balanced equity possible?
Hi, I'm Tatiana, and I'm the fearful heretic. I am all about getting to the bottom of things. I also want to try everything at once. Questions I'm pondering. How does one see reality without distortion? How can we embrace all the blooming complexities of life? How do we express our experiences in creative work? The question, what's it all for, has not left me since my teenage years. And now we're diving into a difficult topic we have chosen for today. Difficult and controversial topic of gender. Congratulations. Let's try to investigate this abyss. So previously I started with some kind of definitions here, which I extracted from site of World Health Organization and from Wikipedia, and doesn't matter from which sources. But I suppose more important is to share another approach to this complicated sphere. Many people think, let's put it like this, many people think that gender is about being male or female, but it's much more than that. Yeah, like we see on this picture, which I found on the website of Gender Studies course of Penn State University. Yeah, this complicated picture of different variations that gender can, in which gender can appear. Because gender is a spectrum, yeah, the colorful spectrum with many identities that go beyond the traditional categories. One common misunderstanding, though, is that gender and sex, gender is the same as biological sex, but hopefully, more or less, we all understand now that it is not true. They are related, definitely. Gender is more about how identity feels inside, how you identify yourself, while sex is about our physical traits. That's maybe that's how we can put it to clarify the difference between both of them. And one more misconception connected to the gender is that we all are similar in the way we express our gender identities, but more or less nowadays it is also clear that it is not true. We know different persons who demonstrate female qualities, being actually a man or otherwise. We meet it in our everyday life, but still the stereotypic understanding, the binary approach to this situation is traumatizing a lot of people, a lot of children in their early years. So unfortunately, this misconception is still powerful. And recent events have highlighted the ongoing conversation on these topics. Yeah, and when I say recent events, it's, for example, the situation around Paris Olympic Games. Yeah, and all the controversy we saw on the news. We're gonna dive a bit deeper into this situation later in our conversation. But let's finally, our approach to understanding gender turned to be a process of understanding personalities who had a strong influence of understanding of this topic nowadays. Of course, gender question rises and comes from feminism, and it is closely connected to it. That's why let's check the main figures who contributed to the development of gender theory in general, and played a huge role in development of feminism, science of gender studies, and philosophy of gender in general. Yeah. So first of all, of course, we have to talk about Simone de Beauvoir, who was the leader and the main mind behind the second wave of feminism. And a lot of people know her as a wife of Jean-Paul Sartre, famous French philosopher. But actually, the years go by, and as we see, her importance is only growing. Yeah, and that's a big question to me, and not only to me, who made a bigger contribution, even though her husband is an amazing philosopher, yeah, and really famous around the world. And we won't be diving into her philosophy. The book she wrote and published in 1949. The Second Sex. She published it in French, but then it was translated. So the main thought that she brought in it is one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Yeah, such an approach was truly shocking for the community and for philosophers and for people who work in an ethnographic and culturological, anthropological field. But still, when we dive deeper into traditional cultures, then we're going to find a different approach to the gender situation. So based on, partially she based her thoughts on this anthropological explorations that were made in the beginning of the 20th century. But she was such an original thinker, unprecedented. Let's continue to look. Let's continue our looking into her. Here, by the way, she looks absolutely similar to the Dead Can Dance main singer. Like she, maybe because of the way she does her hair, but she looks absolutely similar to her, especially there are a lot of black and white photos. But no, she's not a singer. She was born in January 9th, 19. God, I forgot how to name the numbers in English. Sorry. 08. Yeah, I couldn't resist to copy paste from Wikipedia this short passage, just because we have to understand. I dived a little bit into her biography, and this is the point of view of 21, 23 years old young lady who was an outstanding thinker at the moment, and she passed her magister exams second after Jean-Paul Sartre, just because it was unusual to give the female person place number one amongst other students in the country. Yeah, so she was the second one. And finally, he was insisting on marriage, on developing their relationships, and she was refusing. But why? Why was it? So it was something like 30s, early 30s, so 1930s, very early years. That's what she thought on marriage at that time. I think marriage is a very alienating institution for men as well as for women. For women, sorry. I think it's a very dangerous institution. Dangerous for men who find themselves trapped, saddled with a wife and children to support. Dangerous for women who aren't financially independent and end up by depending on men who can throw them out when they are 40. And very dangerous for children because their parents vent all their frustrations and mutual hatred on them. That's how she was even before the Second World War. No wonder when she published her book in 1949, and it was an amazing partnership between two of them, between her and Jean-Paul Sartre. They had another partners and so on. So it was like absolutely non-traditional approach to the marriage also. But could you imagine a very young girl from quite established family, very well educated, brilliant thinker. That's how she was approaching the marriage in the years when almost nobody thought about it like that.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question really quick?
Yeah.
So you posit this, because there's a couple of different points of view on the topic of gender, and there's some polarizing positions about it. And oftentimes you do get this, either positive or negative response to feminism being the cause of why we're questioning our gender roles. And some people say this feminist is evil, and that's the cause of our problems, and we need to go back to where the traditional roles were respected, because feminism is ruining this
the traditional way of saying
the
things.
traditional way that, and the traditional way is the best way, and so this is wrong. And so I just wanted to bring that out into the open, because you've established that yes, there is this this feminist point of view, which happened even before people even started talking about it, and they probably did talk about it in polarizing ways even at this time, but in the 60s it really came into head, the feminist movement, even more aggressively. And then there's this whole backlash, because I experienced it from my own father, about this being the cause of it. So I just wanted to bring that out into open, so that we could talk about it from a positive, from a woman's point of view, and depending on what kind of women you are, it's a refreshing, acknowledgement that we're too constricted and it's been unhealthy. But then there's also this other idea that it's to blame. So I just wanted to bring both of those topics out into the open.
So yeah, of course, these contradictions and all this fuss around feminism, of course, it continues to go with into the gender studies. But so probably I didn't mention it just because I have my diploma in philosophy, and at the time we were studying, it is kind of established science, for me. So it's that's how things are done. That's how things are. That's the level the thought is developed for the moment. And I think of it, okay, it's natural. So it's science. That's how social science developed itself. But for a lot of people, you're totally right. It is a lot of people, I suppose, condemned Simone de Beauvoir during her lifetime and after it, and probably don't ask Putin what he thinks about her.
For sure.
But I was really surprised. To be honest, these thoughts on marriage were implemented also during early Bolshevism time. So between 1917 and 1929-30. After that, Stalin decided to turn everything around, and they moved back to a more traditional approach to family. But first 10 years after the revolution, they were trying to implement this point of view on gender differences and the female rights to work, to have money, and so on, an independent life. So somehow there were a lot of people thinking the same way, but for her, it was a fundamental. She proved it with her life and with her partnership with her husband, that it was not simply the mere thought, but that was her approach and her style of living, and that's how she lived the whole life. And it's amazing. Let's have a look into her body graph. So when I open my screen now, do you see the presentation or what I'm opening? The body graph.
I see the presentation.
This is nice. I'm really happy. So what I find truly interesting in her body graph, of course, and cross of penetration. So she was only preparing the earth for seeds that would come later. So she laid the way for a lot of feminists, for feminist thought to develop. That's what we see definitely in her. And this marine maiden as her personality son, I found it really interesting. And even if we consider the situation with her marriage, because she had no dowry, unfortunately. So she comes from a relatively wealthy family, but they lost all their money after the First World War. And she had struggles with her marriage. because she had no dowry. And she decided to study and to provide for herself. And so she did. But then came Jean-Paul Sartre and was trying to involve her into truly family relationships. It is funny, but so she's a married maiden in her head, but in her design son. Yeah, and with personality son, sorry. And 53, she has 50, gate 53 as personality Earth. So she's a starter. And she started enormous amount of things, as you can imagine.
Well, she's a manifester.
Yeah, and she's a manifester
woman, and she's got her sun in Capricorn, which is consistent with the research I've done in astrology. The marrying maiden is ambitious. What line? It's the 3, so she's experimenting with her ambition. And so she didn't come from money. She didn't have a dowry, you said.
Yeah. So she come from money, but money was lost in process of her upbringing. But her father was quite an independent thinker, and he was also not attending church, all the church stuff, opposite to her mother. And she says like it is kind of influenced the whole her life, because she had to think about these things. It's 2 different positions, 2 different approach to life, but she took a lot from her father. He was a really extraordinary person.
Yeah, so she also has the initiative. So tell us again, why is it why did you comment that way of the cross of penetration as being the seeds and laying the groundwork? Why do you say that for people who might not know what cross of penetration is?
I once I did a reading to a person with that cross, and when I was searching for the details for her, I found a comment from Ra that his cross of Clarion, so he comes after the cross of penetration. So first somebody has to come and to work with the land to prepare it and to put some seeds, but then comes the Clarion and he does the main work. So he should be the person with that cross could be kind of superficial, but that's how it should be done. The first approach. That's what she did actually. She prepared the land for everything that came after her.
Yeah, so she's a manifesting woman. Manifester as a woman is a very a manifester, as we know, is a person that can as a woman, she's supposed to initiate, and so it's challenging for some manifester women because of the gender roles that we live in. They're not they're not here to wait. They're here to actually, like you said, again, to lay the groundwork. And I also noticed that her south node is in the channel of struggle, and her north node is in the channel of in the gate of struggle, and her north node is in the gate of provocation. So, and
that's the end of her life, by the way. So that's the end phase of her life, and she was at the top of her fame, and she published this book, and so it's like she was in the center of attention, of course. But you're to be honest, I would put it like almost all manifesto women in my generation in Russia, for example, had enormous difficulties being a woman, a manifester. It's like it doesn't match at all, and you have enormous difficulties. Like my sister is a manifester, and it was quite difficult for her to find a way. Just because a stereotypic female should do these things and she's not allowed to do another things. This socialization is the same way difficult as a male projector. Who has to sit and wait until some generator for female, for example, comes and say, "Oh, you're so nice."
waiting for the invitation, whereas
Yeah,
the manifester has to initiate. And then she's got that 2551, so
yeah,
she's
of course.
she's extra initiating.
She's
What do you think?
Mhm,
What do
mhm,
you think about her 3313? How does that play in? Do you have any thoughts about that?
just a second. Yeah, of course. But like she she has to share, she has to tell the story of this
Mm,
community. She has to tell a story to a community. To be honest, all this gender curious people are still a community. I won't say like all the people living on this earth are thinking about gender the way it is done, for example, in modern social science. Yeah, it's still a minority. So
mhm.
she had to share her story this with the community, with to tell this story, and she was telling this story with her life, not even with her books.
Yeah.
I was at her exhibition less than 2 years ago, exhibition dedicated to her in Bonn. It is amazing how she lived, what friends she had, what processes she initiated, and how on what level she developed her relations with her husband, with Jean-Paul Sartre. And it's simply amazing when you attend this exhibition. You see, like this is definitely an amazing female. Yeah, like
Yeah.
one in a generation.
Yeah.
We are really lucky that she was born not in our times, okay, a bit earlier than we.
Yeah. She's got some interesting planets in the channels that she's created. So she's got the Pluto, which is a generational channel in gate 12, and then Saturn in gate 22. So those are,
Mhm,
and so Saturn is, both of those, or Pluto is more generational,
mhm,
but it's like, that's her initiating channel. And that's very individual. And it's also the romantic channel.
of course.
She's she's individual, romantic, wants to do her things her own way, and is here to provoke people into thinking in initiating this new way of living. And
Mhm,
then she's also got Uranus in that gate, in the gate of struggle too. So Uranus is on
mhm,
her south node, and she's also has her moon, her design moon on her south node, and also her sun is on her design south node. So she's got a lot of karma,
mhm,
and this the ways that she's playing out all of these things. As you can see, she's
mhm,
kind of initiating and penetrating this new idea, and she's quite famous for this, bringing this out into the open for
mhm,
for people to, like you said, to plant the seeds for a new generation of
mhm.
these ideas. So yeah, it's very interesting, her chart.
But it's interesting that you say that she has a lot of karma, yeah, because like she was destined to meet her husband, I suppose, and he served also to, because at that time it was not that simple to be a woman philosopher, yeah, and her partnership with Sartre did a lot of, it helped her to establish herself, even though she did enormous work. She was always supporting herself with her work. She was teaching until she was able to live with her books from her publishing activities. She was always independent, but still, this partnership did a lot of favor for us all, just because
Yeah,
it helped her. So I suppose it was also kind of karmic partnership somehow. Yeah, of course
yeah,
she did things herself. She was persistent in it. An unbelievable person, unbelievable configuration. Yeah.
yeah,
So now we let's say that Judith Butler continued the as a main figure of feminism and gender studies, actually, after the Beauvoir did her grounding, laid the foundations. Yeah, then the most contradictory figure nowadays still is Judith Butler and her famous book Gender Trouble that made a lot of noise, and is still making a lot of noise after its publishing. And the main idea, to put it short, yeah, is the main idea that she brought to the table, yeah, of gender studies, is that gender is something that we perform, and this is not a fixed identity that we have when we are born into this world, but is more list of rituals or list of actions that is prescribed to us. For example, I'm a woman, then it means that I do this, so I have to dress a certain way, I have to act a certain way. When I see a small child, I'm immediately attracted to this child, and I'm ready to help and take care of this child. If you, for example, if you're in a group of people somewhere outside and the child is crying, it's like kind of expected that you're going to take care about this baby if his mother is somehow not available, just because you're a woman. That's your ritual, that's what you're used to do. And so the men to protect, to earn money, or whatever. So like that, but these are all actions which we learn during our upbringing. And her idea is, if you perform some other things, then maybe, and their ideas. She uses pronoun. She prefers, when we talk about her, as they, even though they are quite okay when they're called she, but she prefers this gender neutral pronoun. She's a lesbian. They are lesbian. Sorry, it's like quite difficult. I'm truly sorry if somebody feels uncomfortable when I switching these prepositions, but sorry, I'm trying. I'm doing my best. So it's better to address as they. They are better addressed as they. Yeah, that's how it is nowadays.
They or they? They as in th?
They.
Yeah, because some
They.
people have said we should come up with a whole new pronoun, and z. That's what I heard. But yeah.
Okay,
Z.
so Wikipedia knows nothing about it. Not yet, maybe.
Yeah, because it can be quite hard to keep up with all of the different ways that we introduce people based on their identity. But yeah, I mean, it is challenging because we've learned the language a certain way. I think younger people have an easier time with going back and forth. Do you see that in your experience?
Yeah, of course. The younger people are, the easier it goes, to be honest. And like, if you see teenagers nowadays in the street, you see like this sometimes really hard to distinguish, is it a boy or a girl? And that's the position, the principle. That's how they want to show themselves to the world. When I was in this age, and I had a very short haircut, and I was looking actually like a boy, and was addressed sometimes like, I was really like, why don't you see that I'm a girl? No. But nowadays is kind of, so here in Berlin, I see a lot of teenagers dressed like in a neutral way. I suppose you also meet such persons in United States, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's so polarizing here. I think there's a lot of kids that are like that, and then there's the opposite. You know, there are the opposite places, the places where it's not as accepted, and those kids are outcasts. So I see a variety a variety, but I do know that in the places where it's that it's more acceptable, that there's more fluid ways of seeing people, and it's not as polarizing to the children themselves. But when you're in the cities that are outside of those places, it's still very polarized in certain pockets. Yes.
Even here in Berlin, actually, there are schools where transgender, for example, kids could be mobbed and so on. So like, yeah, it's not ideal here, even though the official ideology says like, we are protective and we are taking care and never never ever again we could repeat the experience of Nazi Germany when those people were punished for their nature, their nature. But still, you can meet it also even here in Berlin, somewhere in the outskirts, in some
Yeah.
schools, some
Usually it's
teaching.
outside of the cities that you see the most polarization. Yeah, because those are the places where people prefer things to stay the same.
Mhm. Yeah. So Judith Butler, yeah, definitely received a huge attention to all her works after she published her ideas, and they themselves were uncomfortable in a female body from the very beginning, as they put it. That's why probably they continued to develop gender. Also one more reason, not of course the main, just because they are like quite a compl- developed and interesting thinker themselves. So that's now a bit closer to her current age, because as they were born in 1956. Yeah, so we have
Mhm.
the exact date and exact time. Yeah,
Okay.
luckily it could be found on the internet. Like same with like for Simone de Beauvoir. And let's have a close look to her design. So here we see the manifesting generator, but a very energetical one. And what do we see? we see here, for example, so 55, gate 55 as a personality sun, abundance of spirit. Yeah. Gate 59, line 6. It's like everything connected to our mating, to sexual relations, yeah, and all this gender problematic and everything in that direction is her personality Earth.
What is
And
the sixth line? What is that? What is the keynote to the sixth line? Do you remember?
just a second, you're gonna hear
I'm
it
gonna
in
kill
my
you.
no, please, cool. I'm gonna do it the other way around. Yeah, just a second. Okay, I can. Yeah, so accountability, spirit abundance, understanding the correlation between material wealth and personal fulfillment, like a business professional who finds meaning and satisfaction in their job and financial accomplishments. Becoming overly focused on accumulating material possessions, but it's definitely she's definitely they have developed themselves definitely in other direction.
Hmm.
uh, Bringing emotional abundance through spirit. That's
Yeah,
the
I was just curious about. I remember something about the 59.6, but I couldn't remember the keynote to that. Um,
yeah. So do you want to dig deeper into this
oh no,
topic?
no, no. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, what was immediately interesting, well, what I found immediately interesting, that the gate 29 defined it 2 times in her Pluto, yeah, and also in her Jupiter, in personality Jupiter. Yeah, so it is a rule for her, and it is her nature to jump into this endless hole, to the abyss, and she's ready actually she's quite they are sorry so I'm sorry, they are quite good equipped for all the hardships of such a publicity. Yeah, the publicity they get is really troublesome and difficult. Yeah, and I'm not sure if they do not have a security guy for here for just for everyday purposes. So strong is the contradiction, so big is the contradiction, and so difficult. So they are really condemned, if I would put it like this. Also, for example, in German press, even here in Germany, Jewish community. So they are not accepted in Jewish community. She's a Jew. She comes. Her part of her family comes from Russia. Yeah, for example, by the way, as usual. Yeah, uh, but they were born in United States. they are quite good equipped for such a difficult approach of such a difficult publicity. They have the strength and the readiness to dive into the extremely difficult situation and to see what would come out. And they have a 731 channel of alpha. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
noticed
that's
that.
also important to mention. Role model at the same time, profile 6.2. Yeah, channel of curiosity. So like everything speaks loudly that this person would be breaking the rules. So how to say, breaking the consensus. Yeah, tearing it up and bringing some new ideas and ready to for everything that it brings to the table. Cross of spirit. Yeah. So I wouldn't say that description of cross of spirit brings a lot here, but I suppose their basic needs and nurturing the body are satisfied, and it means that they have possibility to extend the creative spirit to bring ideas, to dive into ideas world. Just because I hope the material part of life is quite established for Judith Butler. I suppose their books are so popular, and because of this contradiction, sales are good, and they have
Well, yeah, I
possibility.
would like to say that I
Mhm,
have a client who is on the Cross of Spirit, and she has the 59.6, the whole
mhm.
channel.
The whole channel,
The,
yeah.
the cross, the Cross of Spirit, specifically, the research that I've done is
Mhm,
coming in and shaking up um, this confines of what it has been like to be in these traditional relationships
mhm,
and rebelling against that idea. So there's finding the spirit outside of the marriage bond. So that's kind of consistent with her, like a rebelling. I mean, my friend is also a 5-1, so there's that heretic flavor to
mhm,
that. But I thought I'd bring that out because for her, she didn't get married and she didn't want to have children. And that was when I was looking into her cross. It was about finding the spirit in, and I noticed that she also has her Mercury in gate 19. And so there's a lot of there's a lot of tribal responsibility
mhm,
to come in and introduce something different to the tribe. um
mhm,
then, and she doesn't really have a lot. She has the centering channel, and that's
mhm,
individual, but a lot of her
mhm,
channels are more collective. um
mhm.
and so it's about coming in and bringing something new to the tribe. Like,
That's what I find truly sad. No, not sad. Okay, that's the reality. That unfortunately, they bring it to the tribe. Yeah, not to the world, to be honest. Yeah, but to the tribe, and it stays in a tribe, on you tribe,
yeah.
transgender, LGBTQ plus or whatever. Like people who do accept this position of things here and their ideas, and this is a limited space, a limited part of the world where this all is accepted as a modern development of social science. Unfortunately, in some other parts of the world, even some other parts of the United States, it is still not accepted. So that's what I find truly sad. But tribe, yeah, just for tribe, not for collective.
Yeah, she's got a
Mhm,
lot of
mhm,
She's got the south node. Her design south node is in the 45, and so
mhm,
she's here to
mhm,
sell this idea to her tribe. I also noticed that her sun, her design sun and earth are in our nodal
mhm.
gates, which is
Yeah, this also.
interesting to think about.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm. 9 and 16, you're right. But this 29, I was like, oh, okay. And now I see. So, like, immediately 20, 20 gate 29 three times. Like, dive into this depth. Doesn't matter what comes out.
Yeah.
Just do it. And they have to do it. Otherwise, it's not interesting. Otherwise, it's not their life.
Yeah.
That Judith Butler. And now we move to another outstanding person, the creator of Philosophy Tube, Abigail Thorne, transgender woman who did a lot for the community in England and in Great Britain in general, but actually for the whole world. And she is really active in the field, trying, and she also has she received a philosophical education, and her coming out was public. So it's a person who did a lot for all of us, for all the people who do not subscribe to this ideology that there are only two options to be a man or a woman in this world. And this is a person who belongs to a younger generation. She's 31 at the current moment, if I understand it correctly. And I definitely can recommend her channel. And same, I suppose, comes from your side also. You watch sometimes her videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went through of somebody personal in my life, a younger person who went, had gender dysphoria, and so I was introduced to her and watched her own whole unveiling, and watched her talk about gender from a philosophical point of view, and a very educated and yeah, I mean, I just learned a lot from her channel. So I definitely recommend if you wanted to really learn about this from a perspective that'll blow your mind. I think you should just watch her channel, because I think she has a lot of interesting things to say.
And she's like like a person who studied philosophy long ago. I forgot almost everything, but she's so nice. She's a brilliant thinker also. She's like,
Yeah.
she has a very sharp mind, and she could definitely explain the things that are really difficult to grasp. Like, for example, the Judith Butler, the philosophy of Judith Butler, and this situation with performative gender. Thanks to Abigail, I understand it now more or less. Yeah, just because it is not that hard when you listen to her explanations, and when she jumps from one book to another to dig a bit, to a little bit deeper into the topic, and to bring the true understanding to yourself.
Yeah,
So
and I think we talked about, like, what I appreciate about Abigail is that she's not polarizing, and so she brings a lot of compassion to people who are kind of locked into this polarization. So she's a person that that to me, I think that there's got to be more people that are bringing two sides together, because otherwise we get locked into these extremes of polarization. So that's what I appreciate a lot about her conversation.
Yeah, she's not fighting back. Yeah, she's explaining, she's educating the audience, and she's trying not to fight back the people who are attacking, and just to not the mere forgiveness. Yeah, like, we are so kind, we forgive them, but she's not acting back the way they do.
Yeah.
Towards transgender people, LGBT movement, and so on.
Yeah, you
So
would call that like fighting force with force, because that never really works. So there's got to be the yin part of, when somebody comes at you with force, you're actually more powerful when you become the yin energy that can take that force and transform it into something that's equally, if not more powerful than the force that's coming at you.
Yeah, that's the level of acceptance and understanding is absolutely amazing. Let's look at your body graph now. What is wrong? Is my okay? Okay. Sorry, we moved too far. So
She's got her son at 27. That's why. Okay. Sorry.
So the problem here is that we do not have the exact time of her birth, unfortunately. She's not that popular yet to be on the astrology data banks. So like I took a nun as a point. It could be different, but just you see one more amazing manifester who has she has the whole experiential way. Yeah, so 4130 and 3635. Yeah, and she has also and she's also tribal. She has 1949. Yeah, so of course she delivers to the community, and she's emotional. And even though she's emotional, it's really hard to believe. So maybe she gives herself enough time to transform these energies. Yeah, because it's quite hard
Yeah,
to.
she's so let's just talk about what is true in this chart. She could have a different profile because we don't know her time of birth. But she's definitely born on the cross of, what is the cross?
On the cross of, most likely it is a cross of unexpected.
Cross of unexpected. She's definitely a manifester, because that's not going to change. Her moon and some of the lines may change because we don't know her time. But I noticed right away that she's got her nodes on the same nodal lines as Judith Butler. So she's got her personality nodes on 5-2, the different lines probably, but gates 535 and 2645, which is interesting.
Yeah, you're right. 535. Yeah. You're absolutely right. What else would be? So, like, we see a very strong manifester with defined ego. Most likely it stays, but cross of unexpected, maybe that popularity that she received, actually she started to, her channel just merely more desiring to bring philosophy to the masses, yeah, and to help. The idea to start the channel was just because the college prices suddenly became too high in Great Britain. It was like a dramatic change in a short period of time, and she decided to help the people who struggle, not able to receive a proper education, at least with the philosophy, and that was her motivation, and somehow it brought her to a totally another level of fame. It would be, let's put it like this. So she started from philosophy, and then her coming out was already public, and then she became an advocate for all the people with fluid gender identity and so on. Yeah.
She also has an open G, so that's interesting.
Yeah, open G. And her Jupiter in gate 18, so she has to perfect. She has to, but even 18.4, that this is a line, I forgot how to name it properly. Do not want to see, just because an neutrino app, they have a slightly different description of line. So it's better to even to check it on in neutrinos and in line companion, and then somewhere else here also. But it is like understanding that some things could not be corrected, yeah, and acceptance. That's what she demonstrates actually sometimes, yeah, like when she accepts this aggressive approach to the to her gender identity. And she's a deep one. You see, she's in the beginning, she's still developing, she's still opening. So she has to be slow, 48.6. I mean, so the later stages of her life, we would see what else she brings to the world. 14.1, our favorite line, yeah, that's her Pluto.
Yeah.
So she's definitely showing us that. But even though I suppose she didn't have any problems with money nowadays. She has a team working for her on YouTube just because after her participation in Star Wars and so on, some other, maybe she came to prominence with all this stuff, and her artistic talent that was shining so bright on her channel. So it's amazing story of a beautiful lady. So let's hope we could figure out later the exact time of her birth. Maybe one can ask her on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, I see that she's with the 14.1, I think it's about the acknowledgement that what I'm doing is not all about money. And it's a very powerful truth there. And then I noticed, with she's got Saturn in gate 49, her design Saturn, and then Mars in gate 39. And then Mercury also in 19. So there's a lot of tribal energy.
She's doing it for the tribe, yeah.
Yeah, for the tribe, and needing to come out with her truth. And that, because the Judith Butler's Mercury was on her personality. It was the personality Mercury was in gate 19. And then to have the Saturn there in gate 49, there's a lot of print, the karma of principles and coming out for the tribe to communicate something different, a different possibility to open up these gender constructs too.
That's what I didn't grasp with the cross of unexpected. Actually, the same cross has Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and actually, so this transcription from neutrino up, like essence of your purpose is to be a protector and nurturer of your community, whether it's your family, friends, colleagues, or larger society. Just because I watched it from the other point of view, like unexpected things are coming into the life. So nobody guessed that Vladimir Zelensky would be a president of Ukraine 10 years ago. It was absolutely impossible. He was a comedian and producer, like unbelievable. And the same, I suppose, the same way it went for her also, just because she was educated in philosophy and maybe was more in an intellectual approach, and suddenly it all starts to uncover in her artistic talent and so on. Yeah, but actually she is here to care about the community. That's her role, and she's doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was shocked to see her son. Well, just because of the way I just described her as being more receptive to having these conversations in a way that's not polarizing. And the sun in 27, the gate 27 is all about nurturing. I don't remember the line, and I'm not sure if that's her line, but it's about nurturing the tribe.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that she's more receptive to having compassion and talking about these ideas in a compassionate way with people who do not understand and need to be educated about this issue.
And she's like, and her Earth is in 28, so she knows what the aim, the end point, sorry, the where it all has to head up, how to formulate it properly. So she knows what to fight for. Yeah. And so she does it, but it's not aggressive, and not in an aggressive way. Somehow it's amazing how she managed this all.
It is, because she's got all that emotional energy.
Warm emotional, but it's like the way she could handle this all. Yeah. So I suppose her emotionality is expressed more in her artistic side. Yeah, that's where she implements it more, and her thinking is not that much messed up with her emotions. And when I see such things, the people who can keep the cool head, not being a cold at heart, it's like it's not possible.
Yeah.
But
I want to point out that she's got Saturn in both, two of her emotional gates, and so that's a restricting energy. So that actually keeps, sometimes that can lead to more depressive emotionality, because Saturn restricts and you can't get it out. But she does have her design Venus in 36, so it is going through that experience all the way through the experience to understand it, and the Saturn really keeps her emotions in check. For sure.
So yeah, like she's under. You mean she's under control? Yeah.
so far that we see.
Yeah. Okay, and now just this brief excursus to a third gender problematic in traditional cultures that maybe we talked until now about this dichotomy or this binary understanding of gender, the way it was, and one can think that it was always like that. No, 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 no. Definitely not like that. More or less, this dichotomy was established properly during in the 17th or 18th century, just because this opposition between man and woman and their qualities and the Enlightenment age and so on. They were trying to define a man as thinker through qualities of female qualities that he doesn't have. Yeah, so man is knowledge, development, protection, aggression, and so on, and female position looks the opposite way. But in traditional cultures, many non-Western societies have long embraced gender fluidity. So on the top, we see the picture of two spirits, that the category of people, mainly men who were dressing and acting like women. But it is not only a third gender, they had a special spiritual role in North American traditional societies. So it's a social class, actually. And it was, so some of these people were like immediately entering this social strata and were considered closely closely connected to the gods, and were used in some and were active in spiritual practices, just because they find themselves somewhere in between, and they were not punished, and they were not stigmatized. No stigma for them. It was a kind of special way of socialization, but the one that like my friend do it and my relative can do it, and it's something that happens. That's it. No judgment. Yeah.
No judgment, but they were grouped together, right? They weren't part of, I mean, they had their role in the society, but they lived separately, right?
No, it's more like I suppose it's more in Indian.
Oh,
So
that's the Indian part.
Hijra definitely, because India itself is about castes. Do you say
Past,
yeah? And of course, grouping the groups that have to stick together.
Okay.
And here, yeah. So I suppose the two spirits, of course, they had a special niche in the community. But still, as I suppose, when you're a spiritual leader or some kind of person who is involved in spiritual practices, then it means that you're like quite well established in the society, and not as a group, but as a. So maybe the way shamans could be
Shaman.
understood. Yeah. So I suppose somewhere close to them. So
Yeah.
maybe we can consider them as a group, but definitely not, I suppose, not like in India when they had to live together to protect each other, to
Yeah.
stay consistent, to survive in this society. And also, Paulina, so
Revered, right?
Huh?
They're revered as a special spiritual shaman in the community. Did they get married?
I think that no, but I have. So one has to dig a bit deeper into it. This lady who won Oscar recently, yeah, and she was considered a two spirit, and somebody was talking about her in that way, and she had to talk back. No, that's not, because I do not play this role in my community.
I
Like
see.
it's a different way, or even though she's like gender fluid, as I understand. And same approach one can find in other traditional cultures like Austronesian in Philippines. I was surprised to see it. Somehow it survived the Christianization and all this missionary effort.
Yeah.
Philippines, yeah, but this is the beginning of 20th century. The photo is made. The photo was made, and we see here a man dressed as a woman here on the right, and he's doing some kind of typical job that is done by only by women. Now we're approaching to Hijra community in India, and this casta, this class of people exists like for hundreds of years, and we see here even the gender neutral transgender is written on the toilet sign, but it's like a special toilet for Hijra people, and they are also considered to be spiritually gifted, and they are invited to perform on different ceremonies, and like for example the birth ceremonies connected with the birth or death, but still their life in society is quite difficult, and it is hard to say that they are comfortable. They are trying to live together to protect each other. During some celebrations they are at the center of attention, and attention is positive, but somehow it is not that easy. India is really somehow could be a really harsh country for any kind of gender. So for female, for example, for women also. Have you
Yeah.
heard recently on the news again and again these difficulties? But still, even in this society, even after long years of colonization, British colonization, Hijra still exists. Yeah, it's surprisingly. So what is wrong? Yeah, and now we see the painting of Olga again, where he painted actually the person whom he met in Tahiti, and this is a man dressed like woman, and he's Papamoa. The name, I suppose, this is a class of persons who belong to a separate gender that is not this person is not male or female, and initially the people in Tahiti considered Gauguin also Papamoa, just because he was dressed like in a very special European way. Yeah, so that's something usual. It's like a sacred well, and the person is drinking the water from a sacred well. Nothing special, just everyday Tahitian life. That's it. That's a part of culture, part of of everything, of the process of life. So here we see that this idea of binary gender that exists so strongly, they've developed so strongly in Europe in last let's put it like that, 300 years, is not not the real thing. Let's put it like that. Not the real position, and not the real situation in the world, and the culture, how it is formed. Now we are approaching to the most interesting, recent part of our talk. Not most interesting, but like most contradictory and really fresh to a fresh wound. Yeah. Sorry. Oh God. Do you hear this sound? It's my microphone is. Yeah. Now
Oh,
it's okay. No. Yeah. So Paris Olympics. Everybody heard about this situation and how it developed. Uh, this controversy was connected with boxing during Paris Olympics, and female boxing, so boxing contest between women, among women, and two athletes, Imane Khalif from Algeria and Lin Yuting from Taiwan. Have you heard about this person from Taiwan? No, yeah.
no. Tell
So
us.
there is also a second woman who was also blamed that she's not a woman at all, and so on. Because they both were disqualified from the World Box Championship previous year, so 2023. And World Box Championship was coordinated and organized by International Boxing Association, the president of which has a family name Kremlin, and actually the comes from Russia, and it's kind of Russia-controlled association, let's put it like this. And they used in 2023 this kind of test to prove that these both ladies are not ladies at all, and thus Russian boxing females could take the place number one. It was not accepted by Olympic Committee, but still during these games, the scandal was enormous. Yeah, so everybody noticed it, and in United States, here in Germany, all the newspapers and Facebook in Russian and English and German everywhere. Did you see it also? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for quite some time. It's politicized, these types of articles that or controversies that can come out. And, you know, I think the normal person really thought these people were transgender. And they were outraged because, you know, there's this politicization that's basically saying it's not fair to females for a person that's born male to compete against them. But these people weren't actually transgender, and you dig a little deeper, and it's affecting real women to have to fight this political battle. And you wonder who's beneath all of the controversy, because it's always somebody else bringing it about. Like you said, you know, the Russian organization. There's other actors that are bringing out the outrage, I think, that we're seeing in the news.
They were just trying to change the position, the medals distribution, using this kind of argument. Of course, maybe these ladies are not looking especially conventional, but nobody says there are also a lot of women in powerlifting and whatever. Yeah, they also doesn't look really conventional. Yeah, the way female.
If you look back at older pictures, you will see a lot of variety of different types and shapes that now people are considering masculine. So it's, you know, the people that bring out these pictures. I just saw a picture, you know, that I was like, oh, I mean, now you can see it in everybody. I can see female in the male gaze. I can see male in the female gaze. It's, you know, you think you can spot it, but you really can't. I mean, because we're diverse and we look diverse.
Yeah, and if you train that much, the way she trains, who can? So after such an intense training, I couldn't even imagine how much she must train every day for years. Of course, she looks the way she looks, but it doesn't mean that she changed her gender, so her birth gender, so her birth sex. Yeah, and that wasn't the case. But of course, Elon Musk and John Rowling and all the celebrities who are famous with their position on the topic decided to put their opinions out. And after that, Iman Khalif, who won the gold medal, she was strong enough to fight and to win the gold medal in Olympics. And after that, after she did her job, after she received her medal, she took legal action against some famous people, including Elon Musk and J.K. Rowling, because they made negative comments about her on social media. Rowling suggested that Khalif was a man competing in women's sports, while Musk shared similar sentiments. And then she filed a lawsuit in France accusing them of cyberbullying, because French law allows such a lawsuit to investigate people who might have sent harmful messages, even if they are famous or live in other countries. Yeah. So she used the French law to fight them back. And as we know, J.K. Rowling deleted all her tweets and keeps silence. Of course, it is a vacation season and so on, but I suppose her lawyers advised her really soon, like, you have to delete everything you said. And she did, and now nothing could be found on her Twitter. So we won't talk now about the opening ceremony, but like, you also saw a shitstorm, let's say. Like, it was an enormous amount of discussions regarding the opening ceremony. Yeah, so let's not dive into this deep well of something that smells not too very much, not so nice.
The point, I mean, what we should talk about was there was controversy around the opening ceremony, around this idea that they were mocking the Last Supper. And
they were not.
If you
Actually,
understand
no.
what they were actually doing, was the festival of Dionysus, which is it was just much different than
Something
the
totally
Last
different.
Supper, and so it was simply a misunderstanding of what they were actually celebrating.
Sorry, I was too fast, maybe. But this French lady who proposed to her boyfriend, yeah. So she brings one more, how to say. But this is a nice moment. Yeah, after she took the place number 4, and she promised herself that if she would take place 8 and or higher, she would propose to her friend, to her boyfriend, and she did it. This is how the gender roles are changing in the process, and she did it before all the cameras, and it was nice and touching, very beautiful. So not everything was a catastrophe during Olympic Games. Some positive things, and even the fact that this boxing champion, she filed a lawsuit, and the lady proposed the Olympic Games to her boyfriend, and even at this controversial opening ceremony. It all shows that world is looking very attentively at this topic, and a lot of heads and hearts are really in trouble thinking about it around the world. Yeah, a lot of passion, a lot of thought, a lot of everything is invested. So world is really occupied with with gender.
Yeah.
Last 3-4 centuries. Sorry, so 30-40 years. Let's put it like this. Maybe more. Yeah. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the situation in the United States, where LGBTQ plus rights are facing tough challenges. Yeah, many states are passing laws to make life harder for transgender people, especially young ones. Yeah. So do you confirm? So like you do confirm, I suppose. So mainly this attack is headed towards teenagers, yeah, who are not sure what kind of gender they have. Yeah. So mainly they're trying to protect children from the bad influence.
Well, I mean, it's coming from a lot of angles, the gender issue, whether you're you're rebelling against gender norms, or you're a woman who needs an abortion, or it's coming at a lot of different angles, which I've explored a little bit more in our judgments. But yeah, it's a great polarizing issue for the world right now, and it's complex. The reasoning behind it is not only around traditional roles and how there's this polarizing view that we would like to go back to an older time when this nostalgic view of male-female relationships and the nuclear family is going to suddenly become this safe haven where fertility is going to flourish, and we're going to go into the Garden of Eden and save the world by going back to traditional roles. I think there's a concerted effort to try to stem some of the changes that are happening to humanities and the ways that we are exploring different roles in society, based on the confining roles that exist today. We're blaming all of our issues on the fact that we're expanding our views of roles and how we live in the world.
Yeah. When you're saying we, what do you? Whom do you mean? I mean, society explains the roles that could be presented in it.
Well, I
or
think
some individuals, some progressive, but 3-5%.
Well, I think I'm talking about we as a societal we. So there are people that are rebelling against this traditional idea of what it is to be male or female, and what it is to live in the world as male and female, as well as, from a sexual place, but also the ways that we show up. So there's this old way of thinking that we should be more, well, I can't say old because you've just presented all of these different ways of living, but society right now has this very constricting idea of these binary roles. And there are some people who have some idealization of this very specific time when we were all flourishing in our roles as man and woman together. And so there's polarization, extremes. Like, we want to go back and we want to go to some other land that we don't know, where everybody doesn't have to be in a gender box. And what does that look like? And there's a lot of change that's happening in the world right now, and a lot of it can be argued as this fault or that fault. And I think a lot of people use what they fear the most and blame it on these polarizing issues about the nuclear family and our roles in society. That's kind of what I was trying to express.
Yeah. So, by the way, nuclear family could simply now look different. Yeah. It could be two persons of same gender, or three persons of the different genders, or whatever. So this understanding that even this nuclear family is slipping out of hand and changing and transforming.
Yeah, whether we like it or not. I mean, it's changing. The tribe is changing. The ways that we find security in the world is changing. There's a lot of individuality in the world that's coming to fruition, a lot of mental health issues. Now, they don't all relate to each other, but there's a lot of change and expanding into some kind of new way to be in the world. But because we don't understand where that is going, there's a lot of fear around all the changes and how to address those changes, and to address the real sort of community at large. And how is that going, how are communities changing, and how is the family changing, and how, so we're still in that flux. And there's just very extreme views around what it should look like.
I think in coming years we would all see how it will develop further, and I suppose in different parts of the world the views would stay opposite on the same situation, because let's imagine what is going on in gender with gender question somewhere in Saudi Arabia. What kind of studies they have there, and it wouldn't change in coming 100 years probably.
Yeah, well, the Taliban, I just heard that they no longer will allow women to speak in public. So it's gotten even more oppressive, and it's getting a little bit more oppressive for women in the United States. And so there's a lot of extremism in the world right now, as we're as I guess people fear women. I mean, that's the bottom line. They fear the yin energy. It's very powerful, and so they need to feel like they've got to get it under control, because we need to be controlled. That's all I can come up with right now.
Yeah, so a lot of similarities between this gender movement and situation with LGBTQ plus people, and the situation with the feminist movement in the beginning, the first wave of feminism, the end of 19th century, the beginning of 20th century, when women were fighting for their rights to vote and so on. Yeah, now we have another group of people placed at the same position, and Black Lives Matters also belong to this direction. So yeah, it's so difficult to embrace all these phenomena all together, but it looks like the symphony plays again on another level. But let's soon we would see how it all unfolds in the humankind development, and let's keep conversation going and walk towards a world where everyone can be themselves without fear or discrimination. How do you think? Do we have a chance?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Ra speaks a lot about this in his various classes, but there's this idea that to find a new way forward, we go into places of extremes to balance and to there's the rapid change that's happening right now that we all see. There's an equally opposite reaction to repress and to go back. So like they say, one step forward, two steps back, because there's this when you're dealing with polarities, there's this reaction, equally forceful reaction on the other side. So you're going forward really fast and you want to move forward into a new society, and then there's the Saturn energy on the opposite extreme that says, no, we can't move so fast, we've got to stay in the past. And so that kind of goes into the extremes, and eventually that balances out into the new future. And then again, we separate the extremes, and then balances. So we will eventually see something, hopefully balance in our lifetimes between the extremes. But right now we're all going through, as a society, the extreme responses to change.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe this is, and as I remember, I told like this, the tradition, not the tradition, the conservative part of the civilization fights back strongly now. Yeah, so this is the last stand. Yeah, they
The
do.
last gasp of
Yeah, and it looks like really dangerous. But let's hope this wave would be gone away, and okay, these extremes would balance themselves.
yeah.
And
But let's
somewhere in
point
the middle.
out that even in the human design community, there's polarization around this issue. I remember you saying that you thought it was just in the Russian community, but it's not. It's in all of the communities. So even if you subscribe to this notion of differentiation and finding our differentiation, there's still very much polarized viewpoints in spiritual groups where people say you got to be this one way, or you're conditioned into you're living as your not self, or whatever, what have you. So there's polarization everywhere that we turn. So there's no spiritual group that's not polarized, I mean, that I can see. And so human design has it as well.
Yeah, but it was really strange to me that human design. Yeah, well, first I was dramatized. I had drama again. Russian community demonstrates, like with International Boxing Association. Yeah, all the best things coming from Russia. But then you told me like, no, it's not only in Russian segment of human design. One could find such a like Stone Age views on the matter.
Oh yeah, and
people who are really practicing
vitriolic.
the science of differentiation.
This whole idea of nine-centeredness and being able to see things from an enlightened view. It's very vitriolic. The same types of vitriol comes out in these communities against people who are expressing themselves differently, which is very surprising and shocking when you're thinking about this new way of living, nine-centered individuality, and you see this type of tribal response to people that are different. It's very fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. This is a tribal response. It was always tribal. Tribal things were always really damaging and difficult to survive for me. when I see how the tribe attacks, in this case, like human design tribe and right attacks the people who just a little bit different. I'm like, it's a pain in my heart immediately, but that's how
Yeah.
it works. No drama. No drama, Lama, please. just like Abigail does it. Yeah. The way she does it. She
Yeah.
goes, she continues, and she accepts it. Okay, it doesn't work again, but maybe we will change our slide soon. Yes, we are in judgments. Sorry, too far. Yeah, okay, just a second. I hope it would be. Yeah, now it goes better. Now we move to our. Are we done with the topic? What do you say?
Yes, sure.
Opti-
I mean, we'll continue
Optimistic
it.
point. Yeah. Our optimistic point that everything is not that bad. Let's look forward with hope and not with fear, or maybe with hope and fear together. And now we come to our judgment. I would be really short with my topics just because it is clear that I would say once again how amazing Abigail Thorne is, and her philosophy cube, which is, I suppose, already well known around the world. But I wanted to add two more pictures of her, like amazing artistic talent, and her expression is simply unbelievable, and one couldn't imagine how far a philosopher can develop into an acting persona. Yeah, and also I would like to give a huge shout out for the Vice Crack YouTube channel, who helped me to dive deeper into some of these complicated topics. And this is actually in a kind of artistic community of intellectuals, and they have videos on all different difficult topics, difficult to understand topics on philosophy or different kind of theories, and they are really good in explaining these difficult subjects to us mortals. My compliments. My 1858 had nothing to say against them. Both of these channels, no, not almost ideal. I would put it like this, and clear recommendation from my side. Now we move on to your topic. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this from a wider or a broader perspective. And what the information that I'm going to present right now is from an article written by Mark Jones. He's another well-known evolutionary astrologer who I also studied with. Here, I'll fill in more information about the planetary nodes and what they represent. And then we'll look at how this relates to both the US Sibley chart and the Russia Federation chart, because it's very interesting how both charts have these very specific patterns that I want to talk about. So he says about these planetary nodes, and you'll see that we're talking about Pluto here, and Pluto's planetary nodes. When we really talk about nodes, we generally talk about it from the moon or the earth and the sun, the earth and moon perspective. But this is the planetary nodes. It's important to emphasize that there is no thing found at the north or south node of a planetary body. It is instead an abstract point in space that marks the intersection of the motion of the planet as it crosses the ecliptic. When the planet rises above the ecliptic, so how Pluto is rising above here, it forms the ascending or north node. So the north node is here. And then when it falls below the ecliptic, it's the path of the sun as the journey around the sun. This forms the descending or south node. So it's basically an imaginary point where the planet passes the ecliptic or the path around the sun, and Pluto has a kind of an irregular orbit. as you can see here.
Mm.
The south node of a planet represents its past, either in the form of what has been assimilated, like a gift or previously developed capacity, or what remains unassimilated, a restriction or unresolved aspect of the planetary archetype. Whereas the north node of a planet represents that which is ready to be absorbed and expressed, the intended evolutionary direction or goal of development. So, to apply this approach to the planetary archetypes of Jupiter outwards, so Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto specifically, we gain a threefold understanding of each planetary archetype. The past, or what has already been assimilated or has failed to assimilate, is revealed via the south node. The present functioning of the planet is shown by its present placement within the horoscope. Then the north node of the planet would reveal the intended evolution of the archetype embodied by that planet. So now he's going to give examples of this Trinity method with the archetypes we are considering. The south nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, for all the people that are currently alive today, are currently in Capricorn, and the north nodes are in Cancer. So as it's traveling on the path of ecliptic, the south node falls in Capricorn and the north node falls in the constellation of Cancer. It's difficult to be sure what such a bunching of planetary nodes means, but it must be significant, wrote Rudyard inconclusively. So Mark posits, we can see that the collective beliefs, Jupiter, the primary conditioning, Saturn, and the deepest psychological attachments, Pluto, of present humanity lie in the history of civilization, or Capricorn, and its attempts to structure consciousness through the rise and fall of empires, patriarchy, and the dominance of nature as the foundations for the ascendancy of human civilization, or Capricorn. So there's this idea in evolutionary astrology is that Cancer represents the matriarchy, because it's ruled by the moon, and Capricorn represents the patriarchy because it's ruled by Saturn. So there's this world energy as we see, which is how are we assimilating both of these extremes, the matriarchy versus the patriarchy, and where are things that have not been assimilated healthily, what are we looking at and how are we dealing with those energies? And so I wanted to look at, if you want to go to the next chart, both the charts of the United States and the Russian USSR chart. And as you can see in the United States chart, we have a lot of energy in Cancer, the sun specifically in Cancer, and we have Pluto in Capricorn. And right now, the United States is been going through its Pluto return. And because of that, we're dealing with a lot of energies around, as you can see, the topics around gender and what it relates to as far as the patriarchy and some of the toxic forms of patriarchy, the violence, the suppression of women's rights, transgender issues. There's a lot of vitriol happening and extremism happening, and it's coming out. There's also, our past with slavery. There's all sorts of things that we're dealing with from our past. And so that's very representative of these planetary nodes, but also in the planetary archetypes as they are today with Pluto and Capricorn. And then when you look at the Russia chart, they also have a very specific, an opposite planetary configuration with their sun in Capricorn, opposite of Pluto in Cancer. And I wanted to point out that in 2013, Russia had its Pluto opposition, and Pluto was conjunct the sun. And at that time, that's when it was very much, there was a lot of anti-gay legislation that was happening during that time. There was also a female suicide bomber that year. And 2011 through 2013 were protests against the rigged election system. Pretty much how we're, dealing, kind of the themes that we're dealing with in the U.S. Now, we're different countries and we're dealing with those themes a little bit differently, but very similarly when you look at it, those themes. And of course, Russia is still dealing with the continued oppression of gay people and the family structures. You can speak to a little bit more, Tatiana.
Yes, it became even worse. And I would say, like, this problem with LGBTQ plus people, it was present always, in the Russian field, but it was a short period of democratization in this direction. But since, let's say, since Putin came into power, step by step, everything was diminished. But definitely between 2011 and 2012, so 13 maybe a little bit, this is a nostalgic feeling, like the last big protests were made. It was still possible to gather collectively somewhere. It was not that strictly punished, but after that, that was the end of the protest, because they changed the law and the punishment became so severe that people are not prone to risk that much, because they risk their health, their jobs, their families.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke anymore.
So it's always present, because you've got that opposition, and oppositions are the extremes of one, which is this sun ruled by Saturn and Pluto ruled by the moon. So there's been this polarization and feeling by the patriarchy that they need to keep this under control. So there's a lot of vitriolic responses to that. And as you can see in the United States, you've got the opposition, but to Mercury. So around the belief systems of what women represent in our society versus, the patriarchy, the Pluto in Capricorn. And Mercury is retrograde. So it's an internalization of, that belief system of what it means to be, what it means to be a woman in society, what are our belief systems around gender, and what are their roles. So it shows up a little bit differently. And we've gone through a lot of liberation around women's roles in the United States, but I think that it's interesting that both of them have oppositions. I also wanted to point out that Russia has the Uranus in their chart, Uranus in Pisces and Mars in Pisces. And, Uranus in Pisces specifically, that they say that the whole generation that was born, around, in the 2000s, that have their Uranus in Pisces, it's around dissolving of boundaries, and that's why there's rebellion against certain gender boundaries that's why we're having some people posit that's why a lot of the kids that were born around that time are presenting as non-binary or different types of gender, because there's this rebellion against these firm Saturnian boundaries that we all have kind of fallen into as a society. And they're rebelling against the Neptuning, dissolving of boundaries. So those both archetypes together, along with Mars, the energy of Mars is like, well, we need to dissolve the male part, patriarchal boundaries as well. But then there's that extreme fear around that. So there's a lot of oppression at the same time that comes up because of that fear of dissolving, or the fear of men, dissolving their role, their typical a generic role of what it means to be a man in society, which is I think is understandable, that fear, but it's interesting the ways that it plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see how it develops further. Yeah, so maybe we would find it a possibility to talk about the nearest future of our countries. It would be nice to discuss 2025 and 26 on those charts. Maybe you would bring something. Yeah, just because it's like looks like we are heading to quite a turbulent years, not only in Russia and Ukraine and Israel and so on, but also in the United States. Let's see how it
Let's
unfolds.
see. Yeah, we'll have much to discuss, I'm sure.
Definitely. Like today in the morning, yeah, when I woke up, like Pavel Durov was arrested in front. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, the Fed Telegram founder is arrested in France, yeah, because he is not allowing the government to control Telegram. But he was punished in Russia for exactly the same thing. And Putin was, of course, blamed for it, and all the Europe was trying to protect Durov and blah blah blah, and Telegram should stay independent. And now they're trying to charge him for the things that he's not doing against terrorists or whatever, the bad persons who are active on Telegram.
Yeah, I thought there's a lot of money laundering that's happening on Telegram, is what they say, right?
Yeah, so he's held responsible for it. But then when now Russia has one more argument to say, like, you see how these democracies are working. Yeah, like, all the politicians jumped immediately on Sunday, definitely from different location where they were on vacations. Yeah, and immediately everybody, like all the Russian authorities, they needed to say something about.
Well, tell me about the Russian background against it, because I didn't hear about the Russian. Are they just upset? Are they just using it as a like this is a hypocritical stance against us? See, they're doing the same things. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look, they're doing the same thing, and they were even trying to. We need, because he still holds Russian citizenship somehow.
He's
I don't
Russian.
know why. Yeah, so Pavel Durov comes from St. Petersburg, from my university. He studied.
I didn't know this. Yeah, that's the background that we need, because I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm. He comes from St. Petersburg, and first he was approached by FSB to control VKontakte, this Russian analog of Facebook. Yeah, when he founded this network, this social network, Russian analog of it. So VK. So like Russian analog of Facebook, they made it like 6 months later or something like that. They copied simply the Facebook, but made some improvements nevertheless. And first he was approached about the control in VKontakte. Yeah, but he refused, and he was expelled from VKontakte. When he created it. And then he created Telegram. And then he was approached about the control over the Telegram. He refused and left Russia. Because the messengers should stay independent. Nobody has a right to interfere, and especially state-owned organizations and security police and security and so on. So it's quite a controversial topics, because when we are talking about terrorists communicating with the Telegram, so there are different opinions on the matter. But still, from the point of view of Russian propaganda, European democracy showed its real face. Yeah. And we are ready to protect our citizens. It's unimaginable what they are saying. But they're trying to use each and every event to promote their ideology, of course. Let's see so tomorrow would be a really interesting day, because tomorrow is 26, yeah? Correct. So the French authorities, they promised to bring some statement regarding the situation. Let's hope it would be something suitable.
Yeah, I mean,
understandable.
This whole discussion, I mean, the ways that we've responded to social media and the backlash against censorship, with Elon Musk and Twitter X that he owns. Um, I don't think it's very simple. And I think we're seeing the complexities of that play out in the United States, and in other countries around what is censorship for, the health of a country versus what is oppression, and the health of a society, and all of these things. So from a different perspective, from a different country's point of view, what we're doing in one country can look like oppression to another country. And so I definitely think that there's a spectrum, just like our gender discussion around all of these complex issues, because I see it in our polarization of politics. It's like you see the same things that are happening on one side that people talk about as oppression from another side, and you see both. You do. I know there's all these both sidism, and there's a spectrum to it. It's complex, but I think it's funny when people point out things about another extreme, and they also do that same. They exhibit that same behavior. It's just from a different point of view. And I think we should all stop and think about what that means. And what does it mean to have censorship? And what does it mean to oppress one side? And, I think these all are situations that we have to experience together and come up with some kind of holistic and agreed upon solution pragmatically about what that looks like as a community.
Yes. Yeah, there's a spectrum here. You're right. There is no you cannot put made of stone out. You cannot carve your opinion out of stone. It should be fluid.
Yeah.
Somehow. Change in the terms. I think we are done with our topic for today. This quite a complicated one. Yeah, like everything in this life, but all these modern developments and all these contradictions and the history of gender and sex in humanity's history. All this is so complicated, interesting, and we are trying now to look with hope into the future, and not with fear.
Yes, that's the important point, is to look at pragmatic and uplifting solutions for the world to move forward, in a way that is less destructive and more constructive, and ways that we can live together in harmony and come up with the solutions that are the best for everyone involved. And that's a complex and people have to come to some sort of compromise and agreement on, or we get nowhere. We just continue to polarize and continue to react and be reactive and self-destruct.
It's nice. You're definitely hopeful heretic. Like a fearful one, I would say, like, oh my God. But still, this is the direction we have to go. We wouldn't reach it.
There's no choice.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a better move in that direction than any other. Yeah, so thank you everyone who survived until the end of our philosophical topic today, until our philosophical podcast. And we would be happy to see you in our next episode, where we have a wonderful guest, mental projector.
Yes. Yes. And Tatiana, thank you for bringing such a complex topic to the table. And we, it was a challenging one, and
yeah, definitely. And I apologize for all the you heard today. I tried to find more time to prepare myself. It is quite a difficult situation for me. But this topic deserves years of investigation, to be honest.
Yes, for sure, to do it justice. Yeah.
So see you really soon, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Tatiana.
Thank you, Suzanne. Bye. Ciao, cacao.